Good evening. I want to introduce myself. My name is Steve Lamote. I am a practitioner of magic and have been for a little over 27 years. This is my introductory video, and I plan on doing a few more, or quite a few more, probably mostly book reviews. Books that I've read and practiced from over the years. So I'm looking forward to bringing this information in these videos to you, those that are interested in this type of information. So a little bit about me. Again, I've been practicing for a little over 27 years. Currently, I identify myself as a left-hand path practitioner. While I didn't start out in the left-hand path, well, that's kind of been a recent move for me, or a recent shift. But I'd say that study-wise and how did I get started in occult practices? I'd say probably in my mid or late teens. I got the calling or the pull towards occult studies and occult practices, and I think maybe Hollywood themed movies at the time and maybe some books influenced me in that. I've always been a great interest in things like psychic abilities and stuff like that. And so it just kind of resonated with me. I've always been a firm believer in self-education. When I was raised as Catholic in a Catholic family for a lot of years, and I took my confirmation and my communion and everything else. And when I did my confirmation as a Catholic, I chose St. Augustus as my patron saint. And for those who know, St. Augustus is a patron saint of knowledge. And that's always benefited me over the years because, again, as I just stated, I'm a firm believer in self-educating yourself, and that just proved useful to me over the years. So back when I started my studies, or just a little bit before I really dove into my studies a lot, I did a lot of research on comparative religions, paganism, Muslim Christianity, Satanism, other roles as well. My mother didn't quite take to that very well. Her ultimatum to me kind of was, you're going to practice the same religion as everybody else in this household, or you're going to move out. And I kind of went, oh, okay, great, thanks. Shortly thereafter, I, moved out of the house. When I was on my own, I just started collecting more and more things. A couple books here and there. I started my own practices. Here I am, over 27 years later. Back then, in the mid or even late 90s, for those who aren't familiar, maybe this generation is not familiar. Back then, there was almost no internet, and if you wanted to learn something on the internet, you probably had Prodigy, which was the web browser of like one of the very first web browsers, and you just had to piece information together, or go out to bookstores and find books, or you had to find somebody and learn word of mouth or something like that. And for me, it was a combination of going to a library and getting on Prodigy and finding out more and buying books, and that's what I had to do. And back then, you didn't have books on Norse shamanism really, or at least you didn't have anything printed or sold here in the U.S. that I could ever discover or find. So I took a little bit of the Elder Futhark and then Norse mythology and Native American shamanism practices and put them all together and kind of created my own style. And that's what eclectic pagans do. They find what meshes well with what their beliefs are. And so yeah, in the beginning I was sort of eclectic in that sense. But I practiced that style for about 20 years, almost 20 years. And then I did a little bit of traveling in my late 30s. So I didn't quite do a lot of practices during that time, and that I moved around a lot during that time as well. So it kind of made some practicing a little bit difficult. But then when I did start practicing again, I didn't quite have that same feeling towards my practices that created my Norse shamanism. So what I had done, even though there were plenty of books of that back in the mid 2000, 2005, 2006, you started seeing more of those Norse shamanism books coming into the U.S. from places like the UK and whatnot. I bought a few of them and read them and did some practices out of them, but I just didn't have a feeling for the shamanism at that point. So I ended up doing a little bit more research, and I fell into Chaos Magick, more or less. And some of the books that helped me in my change over to Chaos came from, say, the Gallery Magic. A lot of people in the occult community are probably familiar with some of their books. I found that a lot of their books were of a great benefit to me. And I've probably practiced that for about 6 years, until about a year ago. And even then, while I was practicing Chaos Magick, I still read some books from Left Hand Path authors and practitioners. Stephanie Connolly, for one, E.A. Coetting. I know some people aren't thrilled with E.A.'s work. To me, starting out and switching from a right hand path perspective to a left hand was very informational for me, obviously. And his work was, is kind of like a primer for me, if you will. Other books I found, or authors I found influential for me are Asenath Mason, Michael W. Ford. If you're new to the Luciferian path or new to the left-hand path and you're wanting some more information on what Luciferianism is, I highly recommend anything, a lot of things from Michael W. Ford. He's written dozens of books on Luciferianism, and that information's there. You don't have to struggle with trying to identify yourself or where do I need to get my information from. Just look them up. You're going to find a lot of these authors' books on Amazon and other places. Just go out and do some research and you'll find it. And find the information that you're looking for. Identify yourself with the type of person that you are. And to me, my religious practices, define me as an individual. And find out what defines you, and be yourself. Don't be what society wants you to be, or you have to know who you are before anything. So just to kind of move on there. Again, as I said in the beginning, I've been gravitating over to left-hand path, say this past year, and been doing more research with those authors, again, as an Mason, E.A. Goetting, Michael W. Ford, Enoch Patricelli has also been a great influence. His book, one of his books, or his book, I should say, The Black Witch, I will be reviewing here probably in a couple weeks. Right now I'm just kind of starting out with some of these reviews, and this is just my introduction. So, I'm kind of really looking forward to this. To kind of share this information, my personal perspective, what I've learned about myself in the practice, these practices, how I'm changing as a person, and spiritually, how am I changing because of these practices. The other thing that kind of helped me out greatly was, I ended up joining a Facebook group called Children of the Serpent. It's run by, I believe her name is Tila Petrova. Come on in. If you're new to left hand practices, and you need some guidance, or you just want a discussion group that you really need to find people and connect with. Children of the Serpent may be for you, or it may not be for you. But come on over and check us out. I will be putting a link to that in the description there. So later on. So if you want to come over and check out the Facebook page, by all means. I believe my understanding from Tila, and I've watched some of her videos as well, is she seems to be very exceptional in her tarot card readings. So, if you're wanting to have a reading, I'm sure if you got with her, she'd be happy to give you a tarot card reading. By all means, look her up. I believe she also does like an aura cleansing, and I know she charges for that. Again, you'd have to come on over into Children of the Serpent and get with her and find out what all that takes does or encompasses. So with that, I'm going to leave my introduction video at this point. At this point, I don't have a website at all for you to, like a personal website for me. Again, Children of the Serpent link will be in the description below there. Click on it, find out more about us. If you do, like what you're seeing, and you want to stay with my channel, of course, clicking over to the subscribe button there, either to the right side of the screen or below there, and leave a comment. Of course, I do appreciate that. Positive, negative, let me know how I'm doing, or if you want to know a little bit more, or if you want to see me do videos on any particular topics or books, I'll be happy to go ahead and try to accommodate that. So with that, I give everybody a fond farewell and take care. Bye.